Hello, I am so excited to have this wonderful conversation with Valerie. It's so fitting for Life Empowered, but yet something that we haven't quite touched on, and I think we'll go a little deeper. So, really excited. Thank you so much, Valerie, for being here with me today.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you for having me. Okay.
Val is a wife and a mother of two, and so we're going to go back in time a little bit before she became a mother, before she was married, and talk about a little bit of where she came from. So, as a young child, um, just start where you want to start. Tell me.
I was originally born in Peru, so we speak Spanish there. And I grew up, my grandparents really were Catholic, so I was baptized a baby Catholic. And then we moved to the States when I was about 5 or 6 years old. And then we became Mormon. And then I was baptized again at 8. And then when I found Jesus again is when I got rebaptized for myself. But I grew up in a small little town called Sturgis, Michigan. In I don't know how many people, it must have been at least 15 to 20,000 people, like not very many, maybe even under that, maybe exaggerating a little bit. And what I recall was I grew up with the kids that I knew at that time, and we did everything together. We went to church together. We did everything together. My aunt and my uncle that we were living with at the time, he was, I want to say, a bishop. I want to say that's the correct name. He was in charge of the church, and my aunt, his wife, was kind of, she was in charge of like a lot of women's groups. I want to say Relief Society group, something like that. And we she brought all her kids, including my sister and myself and my mom, when she was around, and we would participate in all of these activities, whether it was fundraising, whether it was helping a family, doing community service. Growing up in this culture was very much family oriented. That
That
makes sense.
sounds really good, right? That sounds like what we want for everyone to grow up in community, grow up with others. And so it sounds really good.
Yes,
But I
yes.
assume you're about to tell
That
us a little bit what this church is like. Church can mean a lot of different things. And so, and again, there's different denominations, but then there's also those that actually follow the Bible and Jesus, and then there's these other kinds of churches, and that's the kind of church that you were in, right? So this church, even though it sounds and probably look like on the outside what we all want for our kids, what we want for each other to be close to one another, what was it really looking like for you?
I didn't when I was that little, I went with the flow. You kind of did what you were told.
Yeah.
You don't ask any questions. You kind of just do as you're told. So I mean, I lived there till I was about 16 years old. So during that time, I wrote things down so I could keep on track. But I remember we couldn't eat chocolates. We couldn't eat, although I think we were snuck in chocolates quite a bit. Like my mom, who loved coffee, she couldn't drink coffee.
Oh,
Soda was looked down upon as well. So I think the only time we ever drank soda, and that was Sprite only because it had to be caffeine free, was either root beer or Sprite with when we had pizza. But otherwise, everything, talking about like homesteaders, this nowadays everything was made home, and it was
hmm.
amazing. We grew our own food if we were able to. My aunt had a garden in the back, fresh salads, the whole thing.
Mm.
Um, but it was more of when we had the church hangouts. The only friends that I had at that time were the kids that I grew up with. We did everything together, community service, the whole thing. But we also did something that was interesting. When you turn 12, you get interviewed. And it's kind of like I'm trying to recall the right words that they used, but it basically felt more like a confession of sins. And the bishop or the person in charge of this would interview with specific questions. And I wish I could remember what they were, but they were basically opening up very like deep questions of like, how do you feel about this? Do you do this? My uncle was my bishop at the time, so he knew who I was. So I don't think I was asked a lot of the questions. The only reason I remember something was because my best friends were boys. I was a tomboy. They would tell me, yeah, he asked me about this and he asked me about that, and it was like sexual things, and I'm like, what in the world? Like, he would never ask me that. He's my uncle. Like, why would he? So it was just kind of weird. But we would have to pass this interview process in order to get a card or something signed off in order to enter what they call the Mormon temple, the LDS temple. And there was one in Michigan, or oh no, and I can't. I think Chicago. I think it was Chicago. I think that was the closest one. And that's where we would go. And then that's when we started doing baptisms for the dead. Something I thought was a cool thing to do, because the missionaries that would go to our church, they would tell us, the Sunday school people would tell us, 12 years old is when you get to be this level, at this stage of level of doing something more for your community.
So you're getting
So
built
of
up
course,
prior to this, that this is going to be a big deal and you're going to be an important person if you pass. So they've
correct.
already put this expectation on you. This is how it's supposed to go.
Yep,
Uh,
yep. All
mhm.
of this leading up to it. So we're doing community service. We're being faithful stewards. We are tithing. We are, we these are the steps, which all in all are wonderful, great foundations. But this was the next one that I was like, okay, what does this mean? And I remember the first time we did it. I was I was definitely nervous. And we were all in a like a van, all the kids, we were in a van, and we were all singing songs all the way up to wherever we were going. I can't even remember. I think it was Chicago Temple, but and we would sing songs, and then we got there, and they said, "Oh, the requirement was wear white underwear, no matter what. Wear white underwear." Oh no, like the randomest facts I remember.
Mhm.
So we're all wearing white underwear, and if you didn't have some, they will provide some for you. So we entered this temple. I don't remember where or how we entered, but we entered through some doors, and then it was almost like it was a hushed environment. We went from super excited, we get to do this, to like a very bring down your temperature, bring down your environment, like your energy, be
Mhm.
calm, like
Solemn.
basically saying, yeah,
Yeah.
like the Holy Spirit, the God, lives in this place only. He's not outside the walls. He's only in this place. So you need to be reverent. You need to be calm.
Oh.
So that was the environment that we had to enter. So we're entering this place. Then they take us to these rooms, have us change. And it was bright rooms. Like, I want to say mirrors everywhere. Everything was very bright. And they said, change into these robes, which were white. And then you're going to exit through these doors. Then they gave us a piece of paper with like, I don't even know how many names there were, 15, 20, maybe more names on there. And I'm like looking at them, and a lot of them say Smith. A lot of them say like just different names, like something Johava da 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 Smith, but a lot of Smith's names on there.
Mm.
And so we enter this, and then we climb up these stairs into kind of like a hot tub, and there's people around as well. So we enter these hot tubs, and they take the paper, somebody takes it and starts to read off the name. And then they said, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, "I guess I'm ready." And so they say, "You are going to represent each of the names on this list per time, and you're going to get baptized in their name, so that they can," because the idea was that they never knew, they were never, I guess, baptized when they were alive, back whenever it was. I don't even know when that was. But my job at this time was to act as if like an avatar kind of way
Mhm.
in regards of them, get baptized for them on their behalf, and did that at least, I don't know how many times in that one trip. So as soon as we're done getting baptized, like a half a dozen times or more, not half a dozen, like several dozen times, we exit, go back into these shiny white rooms, undress ourselves, put on our normal clothes, and then exit through a completely different door that we entered. And that was it. We got into our vans, like, and it was kind of like you don't talk about it. It was a very reverent moment, like this is for you only, and whatever names that you were supposed to talk about or baptize, and then you did it. You did your duty, and we did that twice a year
So that
for
was for all youth only that did this?
only youth, as far as I knew. So all my friends, and there must have been at least 10 of us at that time, and that was just from one little church. I'm only assuming that it was done through many, many churches at the same
Right,
time.
right.
All of these kids did this for years and years and years. And I mean, we were a tiny little church in a tiny little town, and 10 of us went together, and that's what we did for twice a year.
And so did you guys as kids talk about it afterwards, or were you encouraged not to, or how, what did that look like?
I had questions. I was always a very curious kiddo.
Hmm.
And my uncle was, this guy, this bishop, this guy that has all this answers. And so I would ask him, I'd be like, okay, what was this about? What was this about? What does that mean? What does that mean? They're like, no, it's part of your duty. This is something that you have to do. This is something that you are lucky to get to do. Not everybody gets to do this. Not everybody passes the test to enter here, but you pass the test, so therefore you can go. So I didn't know at that 12 what that meant. As I got older, like when 13 or 14, 15 years old started, that's when I stopped doing it. I was like, I'm going to say no. I have an option. I don't want to go. I don't want to
You're
do
not
this.
giving me answers. I'm not doing it because I don't feel excited about it, so I'm just gonna stop.
Yeah.
I can see that. And
It,
and so how did that go with your uncle, with your mother and
so from after, I think it was after 13, 13, my, my, my mom got remarried.
hmm,
So that was another thing, another layer to go with it. My mom went through when we were little, when we started living with my aunt and my uncle, my mom was going through a divorce.
oh, okay.
And divorce in the Mormon religion is kind of like excommunication type of thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So my mom was in New York for a couple of years while she was trying to take care of business, like financial stuff. And my sister and me lived with my aunt and my uncle. So we were there till I think we were, oh goodness, I can't remember. I think I was till I was 12. My sister left earlier with my mom after she got remarried. So it took a little bit for their church to accept my mom. She had a very heavy accent. Um, but you can sense, like, when a child enters a room or when an adult enters a room, people stop talking.
mm-hmm,
I always sense that anytime my mom, and I always just wondered, like, why you guys got to do that? You guys are my friends, right? Why are you guys talking about it? So it was kind of like, don't speak if you don't speak about it. And that's kind of how it felt. The older we got, my mom or my I moved in with my mom after they were remarried when I was, after I think 12 or 13 years old, I want to say, lived with her. I may be having my timeline a little off, but
mm-hmm.
and we continued to go to church. We continued to do things. Because my aunt and my uncle were so involved, we would go to everything. With my mom, she wasn't as involved. And now putting things back together, back, two thoughts together, she probably didn't do as much as my aunt because she also didn't feel as welcomed
Mm-hmm.
as, as what they did. So
Mm-hmm.
you get to do a lot of that. So the baptisms, the activities, that really went down on our end. Um, and I was okay with it. I didn't mind it. I still saw my friends at school. I still were part of some activities with them here and there. We did dances. They call it stake dances when it's a bigger church where like three or four or five smaller churches come together in a district area, and
Mm-hmm.
then these dances. These are where an opportunity to make new friends, to make more, um, I guess, social relations.
Hmm.
And those were fun. I like to go to those at that time. And it just with my mom, we didn't have to go through those as much, but I did question, and she said something to me that I still remember to this day, was when she was younger, they couldn't answer her questions either. She grew up Catholic, and um, she realized that it wasn't for her, the Catholic religion, because they made her feel not good. And
Hmm.
that's what I started noticing about myself when I started asking questions. I didn't feel as good. So I felt like I could relate with my mom at some point at that time,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
not really, because I think she really sheltered my sister and me from a lot of things. Come forward to many years later, my mom had a really hard upbringing, and she and I are very close now. God is good. But I understand now why she sheltered us so much, to the point that she probably said no to many of those activities as we were getting older, because she knew we probably would have gone in trouble if something was to open up.
Was there anything else that you remember of being brought up and involved with the Mormon religion that you wanted to share specifically?
Missionaries were great people. I think the pressure of going on your mission was very pronounced. The majority of my family became Mormon. Like, I think everybody of my family, when my when we were all living in Peru, um, my mom was Catholic, my whole family was Catholic. They all, I guess, I forgot the right word, but we got rebaptized, rededicated, whatever you want to call it, into Mormonism. So many family members moved to the States and they stayed Mormon. They married different people, and they had kids, and all of their kids, a majority of their kids, all went to missions. When it was my turn, when I was turning 18 years old, a lot of my family members are like, "Hey, are you going to go on your mission?" I'm like, "No, I I don't want any of that." I realized that when my parents were divorced and each of them kind of went on opposite ends of the country, they both remarried. My mom stayed in Michigan. My dad actually moved to California. And at 16 is when I moved to be with my dad in California. And that was through a process of my mom and I realizing that we were very similar, but conking heads a lot. And it
Mhm.
just wasn't good for both of us. The fact that I had an out, or she had an out, could move with my dad, was a big thing. And because my sister and I were so sheltered, me moving to California from a tiny little town to a big city
Oh.
at the coast, oh man, also kind of opened my eyes my whole life to really everything and anything. And at 16 is when I realized really firmly that I didn't want to do anything with the Mormon religion. I tried to do their centers here. I even got the little card again so I could join these dances, and they interview for everything, by the way.
Mm.
They interview to make sure that you can enter a place with other kids for moral sake, that you're saying you're not doing drugs, you're not having sex, you're not doing any of the stuff, that you can be trusted. Or I remember those questions some from the other leader of that specific church. And I said, no, I actually just moved here from a very small town, being very sheltered. I don't do any of that stuff. But it was at that one dance that I went with a girl that I met, that she and they showed me, yeah, you can still get away with everything. It's just a card. You don't have to believe everything and anything. And that's when I was like, oh, you know what? You're right. I don't. And I think it was from that conversation that I started to really like, who am I to really follow? I don't want to follow. I want to find my own way. Well, I
Mm.
found my own way in the darkest parts of California, and without God anymore.
Mm. Well, at that age, unfortunately, that's why, again, teenagers need parents. Well, in middle school, we need parents basically
Yes.
all our life. We need good parents to help shelter, but also teach things, right? Protect us because We're going to do what we want to do. What sounds good right now, and there is an enemy, as we know now, that is out to destroy us and will tempt us with all kinds of things that look good and shiny for the moment, but we don't know what it takes from us or what it does to us. And yeah, and kids really need those adult figures. So obviously you've started transition. So now as you're realizing you don't want what the Mormons had because they weren't really offering you anything. They're like, you follow these rules and we tell you it's good. Why they didn't give you reasons of why you would want to. They didn't invite you. There was nothing. What was in it for you? It was good. You just had to believe them. And again, that was your experience. That's what they showed you. So there was something in you stirring, looking for something, but you had no direction at looking for to what would be good for you, looking just for whatever. So you started to have a lot of different struggles and troubles in your life. So where did things begin to switch, leaving, what wasn't helpful for things that were definitely detrimental? How did you begin to transition to where you are now? What happened in your life that gave you hope? What happened in your life that began to give you a purpose or something you did want to be a part of that
So
was beneficial for you?
so I realized that I came from a broken home. My dad wasn't as strict as my mom. My mom was very, you're here by this time, you do this, you fit here because of her upbringing. So my dad was more of, I trust you, I want to give you freedom, but an inch went a mile, like Little Mermaid. And so I ran amok. And I saw the difference, obviously, in parenting styles. And with him, I'm like, I'll just ask for forgiveness later because I know he'll give that to me.
Mm,
And I know I hurt him. I went through that phase with young
yeah,
rebellious self.
yeah,
It wasn't until I want to say my mid 20s. So I ran amok for a good 7 years. I was lost in the desert for 7 years, really bad. I went through the typical lost broken marriage of had sex early, did drugs, did multiple partners. It was just, I was very broken. I didn't know what I didn't know. I suffered emotional. I probably like, oh, God is so good, first of all. Like thinking about each and every single time. I mean, it's awful to admit this, but I was designated. I was the least drunk of the group of us, and I drove. I thank God so many times that he covered me on multiple ways. And I know so many people right now that haven't gotten hit by drunk drivers, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, God, you spared me and whomever I would have. Um, like goodness, the drugs that we did, God covered me. I I was so lost, so lost. But God is so good. But in those 7 years, I saw um I saw who I was becoming because of who I was surrounded by. I saw where their lives were going. I thought they were so cool. I thought these people that had anything, everything that this world could offer, money, boats, cars, fancy things. I wanted that. But I also saw the side that they probably don't show many people. I saw how drunk they got. I saw somebody take money out of their wallet as they were passed out. I saw how they were being used. I saw how they were being abused. And something clicked, something happened in my brain. Thank goodness. That said, that's not who you are.
mm,
That's not who you are. And we were the people that I was surrounded by were leading me down a path that I could have easily said yes to being trafficked, being sold, being um, manipulated. But if it wasn't for that one moment of that is not who you are, And I don't know where that voice came from at that moment. Obviously, I know now. I said, I'm done. I'm done dating. I'm done being this person. I'm done doing this. And I was living in a house in Huntington Beach with two boys who were my best friends. And they were both in bands. They were both rockers. We would have parties. We had a stripper pole in our living room. Those are the kind of parties that we had. And I looked at my life and I was like, this is just not who I want to be anymore. I don't want to invite anybody else in my room. I don't want to clean up after the puke. I don't want to clean myself up anymore. And of all things that I had taken from my house when I moved out of my dad's was this stupid Mormon Bible. they had they had the Book of Mormon, their whole thing, and then attached was the Bible, the New Testament and Old Testament. And of all the scriptures that I remember, was Matthew 7:7. Of all things. I don't remember memorizing. Well, I was told to memorize all of these scriptures growing up. We had seminary school and everything in the mornings. But Matthew 7:7 came to mind. And this is start asking, babe. Start asking questions and I'll give you the answer. Start seeking me and you'll find me. Knock on every door. I'll open them for you. You just walk right through them. Yeah. So crazy, right? Matthew 7:7. I don't even know why it came into my head. I popped open that Bible. I read it. I just cried. I cried and cried and cried. And I said, okay, if there is a God, if you are real, because who's Joseph Smith? I don't believe in that guy anymore. But if you are real, make it so good that I can't deny you. I can't turn away from you. And he did. It was just so good. Like so good.
That is
Um,
beautiful. So beautiful because he does. There isn't just one way
yeah.
that he comes for us because our God is the creator. Our God is Jesus. The word is Jesus. That's what it says in John. The word was God, and the word was with him. He is the word. So it's alive and living. And so that word, regardless of why you memorized it, regardless of where, it still was real.
Yes.
And he's like, ooh, here's my moment. She's willing to hear me. Here's what I want her to remember. And he
Yes.
reveals himself to you. So, how does he begin to show himself to you personally that you know that he's real and that you want this?
Yeah. Okay, so because I was being skeptical, because I was of this world still, so much. I'm still, but like God showed me that he's like, test it. The Mormon religion taught us that Joseph Smith was a guy who tried many different religions to find his, right? So
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm going to follow that example because that's what I knew.
Yes.
So I went to a Buddhist temple
Hmm.
and I didn't feel right in there. I went to a Catholic church. I went to, I don't, you know what? I don't even know. I went to all these different buildings. I realized what I was seeking was the Holy Spirit. I realized that I wanted to feel my heart pump again with life because I was so dead inside. So the the high school that I went to in California, Anaheim High School, there was a guy that carried his Bible every single day to church or every day to school. People made fun of him, but I remember him at that time. And everybody wrote their phone number on the yearbooks.
Oh, yes.
Still worked.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, when you had your cells or your page or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Um, his phone number still works. So I called him. For
That is crazy.
I called him. I go, Devin, hey, can we meet? Because I have questions. And he's like, okay, Val, I'll meet you at this so and so, and da 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 da. We went to work out together, and that's how it began. So I started asking him questions, and he's like, I have a church for you. I have this place for you. Check this, verse out. And I mean, he was just like vomiting this just goodness out. And I was like, okay. And then he said Rock Harbor Church. It was this church that was massive in Orange County. And I think like 20 campuses is crazy. And so I went with my friend Liz. I brought her in there. So we went to one campus because I knew it. The night before was a club that I've been to many, many times before. But that specific Sunday, it was church. And that blew my mind from that moment because I'm like, people danced drinking in this place, and now there's church service. Like there's somebody speaking right there, and people are praying. People are on their knees. There's crosses all around this club, and people are praying in tears. Like, what is this place? That's when I was introduced to the thought that God is not in a building.
Mm,
God is where you invite him to be. And I was
yeah.
like, what? Joseph didn't say nothing about this in their Mormon Bible. So more validation of you walked away from that. Thank goodness you walked away from that. And so I started going to this thing, and then enter a guy that showed interest in me. So the two boys that I was living with in Huntington Beach, they both actually at the same time were working for a company called Guitar Center. Their brand new boss had just moved here from San Francisco. There's this this is a good part of the story. And this guy that was coming was going to be my roommate's boss. He and I met at one of our friends' shows. And I already had told the boys, I go, don't introduce me to anybody. I don't want to be seen with any of your friends. Tell them I'm a lesbian. I don't tell them away. I don't want anything to do with men. So enters Jason, and he's super tall, super like just dangly looking, and he's trying to support these
Angry.
guys. I can describe him. And I'm like, okay, he's nice. And so, but I was like, ignore, just be mean to him. Don't even look at him. So I didn't, but he noticed me. And I'm just starting this journey of getting to know God, and what I want to feel the Holy Spirit. Rock Harbor now was like kind of my own little coveted place. I didn't want anyone else to know that I was doing this. Nobody need to know that I was trying to change from the inside out. And Jason comes and he's like, hey, what are you doing? What can I take you out? I'm like, no, thanks. He keeps trying and keeps trying and keeps trying. And my friend Corey, he's like, he thinks you're cute. He can think I'm cute all he likes. I'm not going out with him. Just as I'm entering this time, he shows up in one show again, and he has his sleeves pulled up, and I notice his entire arm is tattooed, and I look at them for the first time, and I realize they're Bible verses. Each and every single one of his tattoos represents a Bible verse, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that you could tattoo yourself with Bible verse. He had the word Jesus freak, and I was listening to not ACDC. Oh my god.
DC talk.
Talk, thank you. And I was like, I like this band. And so he had Jesus freak on his wrists, on his forearms. And then I'm like, so what is this on? He had Hebrews or forgiven on his knuckles from a verse that he likes from Hebrews. And we started talking, but it wasn't about anything else but God. It was like, okay, God, what do you want? So he started to go to church with me. He clearly saw me the way God designed me to be, but I wasn't there yet. I couldn't believe. I didn't want to believe, but I felt the Holy Spirit for the first time in such a long time, since I was teeny tiny. I think the last time I felt the Holy Spirit was before I was 8 years old. And that was before I got baptized in the Mormon religion. I remember feeling happy and free when I would sing songs. I felt joyous. And after that, it went away.
Mm.
I felt it again at the club, the club where church met.
Club church.
it was so crazy. It was the shark. They call it the shark club. And that's where I felt Jesus again. And he started to come to church with me. We started to sit together. We started having conversations about God. And things started to change. I started to notice a change in me. I started noticing that I don't like my Bible touching the Mormon Bible anymore. I want it separate. So I got, one of those whatever paper Bibles, regular paper Bibles, got rid of the Mormon Bible. And I'm like, this is new for me. I didn't know I could take time and read the Bible on my own without being told this is what you have to do. I didn't know that there were songs that I could clap and cheer and actually just feel worship. I didn't know what that was. The Shark Club that Rock Harbor Church showed me what worship was, what it meant. And I remember listening to I Can Only Imagine, and it broke me. That broke me. And it turned out to be that was the song that Jason was playing in his car that day. And I found myself crying. He's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I don't know how to stop this right now. I don't know what's going on. I just know that I love the words of this song." And that started a whole other beautiful journey. To this day, he and I are married now, and it's been good, but God found me.
Ah, how beautiful. Again, and there, I love that you didn't say anything about people telling you that you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, because that still can happen in churches that read the Bible, but that God brought you to a place so that that wouldn't turn you away, that you could just go explore on your own, right? As you said, and dig in and just test this out. And which is actually wisdom after what you've been through, right? Wisdom growing up of who knew in the middle of your pit, you were wise. You were wise to question. You were wise to wait and see and dig in and then bringing this man again, first of all, someone from high school, only God. I mean, how crazy is that? And he was willing to just talk to you and pour out all this stuff that you wanted answered so that you could just, okay, let's keep walking this out. And then to bring another man.
Yeah.
Uh, and when you weren't looking for a man, which is perfect,
Oh,
because then you were more willing to just talk. It
yes.
wasn't getting interrupted with other stuff. It was like, let's talk about what I need to know.
Yes.
How beautiful, again, God's design. And it's always different for all of us, which I love,
Uh-huh.
um, because he meets us where we're at.
Yes.
And he knows what we need. We
Absolutely.
don't know what we need. We know things that we want.
Yep.
And sometimes we know what we need, but not usually. It's covered by all this stuff
Yeah.
of, surfacey stuff. Oh, I want this.
Yep.
I want to feel good. I want to be safe. Okay. Why is that important? What is it that you really need? Obviously, safety is a thing, so might not have been the right example, but anyhow.
No, but for sure, because coming from a brokenness, you kind of I lost that. My mom kept me very sheltered, very safe, very in this little box. With my dad, I was out of the box. I didn't know what I didn't know, so therefore I kept exploring, but I kept getting hurt. I kept getting hurt. And I couldn't understand fully why I kept getting hurt. But
Right,
protection is
right,
a key. You need boundaries, you need that, but no one taught me those things. No one shared those things with me. there
right.
was there wasn't very much wisdom in the stories of the Mormon Bible. There was history. There were things that we were told to memorize and to know, but I mean clearly I don't remember any of it. um but I think that's what we're made to. We want to have some kind of security. We want to have some kind of the know that we are loved. as we are,
Yes.
that we're protected, that we are given blessings of love, grace, and just forgiveness. But only through Him can we have any of that if we seek
Yeah,
Him.
you went from no,
Yeah.
yeah, complete solid walls that you had to stay in to no walls. And again, we see this with kids all the time when they act out or they do something dumb. A lot of times it is to see, does someone care? Will someone come around? They don't know they want protection. They don't know that they want some boundary lines, but that's what they're looking for to show that someone cares about them. And again, not saying your dad didn't care or your mom didn't care. They again, we have our own brokenness that we bring. We have our own ignorance that we bring, that again, that we don't get that just because we're going to have a kid. It doesn't miraculously come to us, as now you know, as being a mother. We just we got to figure these things out. We aren't just given all the answers. We have to figure it out, and we do a lot wrong. And I love how, again, God used all those things and He was always there. And oh, I know you mentioned before, and I want to give you the opportunity to speak on briefly just how He showed you that He was there before you knew it. How did He show you that He knew you were alone? He knew you were looking for something, but you didn't know Him at that time. How did He show you that He was there? He knew you.
So I was talking to Jason about just some of the experiences. And as I was thinking about growing up in my aunt and uncles, certain situations came up in front that I never put two and two together. But now being a mom, I'm like, oh my word, God, you were present. So there was a couple situations when we were younger. Um, like I said, my mom moved to New York for a couple of years. So both my sister and I were living with my aunt and uncle. They only had enough rooms upstairs, so we lived in the basement. They made a room for us in the basement. Well, during our stay there, there were a couple times that they would, being the the people of the church, the bishop and the late, I don't know, whatever their title was, they would house a couple people that needed a place to live. Well, I remember growing up and hearing stories of certain people. Gossip was, oh my gosh, that was like the tea of everything in that church. If somebody was doing something, going through something, everybody knew. It wasn't just one. It was kind of like the women were the gossip tenders. And so I heard the name Penny. I heard this lady's Penny. And she ended up living with us for a little bit. I think she, from what I gathered from when I was thinking about this, she had a tattoo of a little heart that she showed me. She also had, I believe she was, I don't know if it was what kind of drug it was, but she was in remission of it. So she was staying with them to clean up.
Mm.
And the family that she came from would not bring her in because she's technically an excommunicated Mormon. But because of my aunt's heart and my uncle, they opened their home. She lived with us for, I want to say, a few weeks. Um, I felt okay with her, but I always guarded my little sister. I always just felt this, I need to guard my sister. And then she left. But something was off. The family that she came from, Penny came from, there was another brother. And he ended up staying with us as well.
Mm.
My discernment, and I didn't know what I had then, but as
Right.
I'm thinking about it now, I think he was some kind of pedophile. They kicked him out of his family's home for doing something horrific to one of my best friends, my friend, not just to him, but I think he also did it to her, Penny.
Mhm.
And there was a moment when we were living there. Just one time I remember, I'm sure there were more, but I'm hoping there was not. My sister and I were sleeping in our own beds. in the basement, and the door doesn't have a latch, but I remember the light of it opening, and I saw this figure during the time that he was staying there. And
Mhm.
I remember this figure coming in and then just being in the room. And I felt the presence of somebody there, but I didn't hear anything else. And then the door shut. I remember asking my aunt about it, and she dismissed it, made me feel like I was in the wrong. So I stopped asking for things or, talking to her about things. But I remember in my heart, I'm like, don't let your sister be alone ever. Do not let your sister be alone.
Mhm.
And I think that's why my mom took her, because she was the youngest. At least I could speak up for myself. And he didn't live with us for very long, but something was off with him. I didn't find out till years later that this particular person killed himself because he was also being molested by other uncles within that family. There was
Mhm.
a lot of incest happening, and I don't think it was just one family. I think it was multiple families within that church.
Mhm.
Something was going on, because now that I think about it, more and more behavior, and I'm hoping I'm wrong, but like some of the behaviors, even through a mom's eyes, were off. Something was going on. So God covered us in that time. And then thinking moving forward, through the times of my mom's like divorce and what she was going through, not being included in the church, God covered us with just the right kind of people that were not Mormon. Again, just God just showing his presence in being so just overly abundant blessings, of whether it was providing financially, whether it was providing extra food, whether it was giving us a break on something. And our family was covered. Um, Even to the point of when I was in California, I I blacked out so many times from all the things that I did, to the point that I'm grateful that I guess I don't have what I have, like the diseases that were at that time. I can't I can't verify, but that feeling that you have, like I woke up several times in just the wrong places,
Mhm.
and it could have been a lot worse.
Right. Right.
But there's other times that I know that I was completely covered because nothing was touched. I wasn't touched. My everything was okay. Um, yeah, I'm sure more will come up, but just God
Mhm.
has been there for us this entire time.
He's just
I
made clear to you in those moments that he was there, and that's why these things didn't happen. There was certain times he was there so that they did not happen.
Correct.
Again, it happens to others, all these things that we're alluding to, but that's how he showed you when he was there, that he was around. And he does that. I hear over and over again of everyone,
Yeah.
including my own story, of so many things of what was happening, what could have happened. And even when there is tragedy, even
Yep.
when there is horrific things, he shows them how he was there
Yeah.
and what he was doing, sometimes holding them, sometimes brushing their hair,
Yeah.
wiping away their tears, wanting them to know that he loves them. But again, he waits for us to know and call upon his name, because he is not a forceful God. He is not, he has rules, we could say. He has guidelines, he has parameters, as parents do, to protect,
Yes.
to shelter, not like your mom's rules, not like the Mormons' rules, but he has rules and guidelines in his word, in the Bible, because he knows what's best. And he wants us to trust him. that he'll be our protector. He'll be the one that opens the door or closes the door. It says to walk by faith and not by sight. So really meaning he doesn't want us to have all the answers and he doesn't give them to us because he wants us to go to him and trust him and ask for it. And that is how he shows himself faithful throughout our lives when we do that, right? And what a blessing that through the hardships, through the struggles, through the things that he uses all things for the
Yes.
good of those who love him. He uses all good things to reveal that he loves you. He uses all things to reveal what he has for you or to show you that you can be more than a conqueror, that those things don't define you. Like people could say all sorts of words about what you shared, of how you lived your life, and call you names and put identities on you. But that is how you were living at that time, but that wasn't who you were.
Correct.
Just as
Oh,
you said, this is not me. Like you were choosing, I don't want this to be who I am. And yes, but other people could put those identities, we could accept them.
mhm.
But our God is a God who wants to show you who he made you to be. And it doesn't matter what you've done, doesn't matter what someone else has done to you. He likes to turn it around. And that's why I go to Isaiah 61 as some of my favorite parts of he turns our ashes into beauty. He wants to give us crowns. Crowns.
I
We
know.
would never deserve crowns, but that is how much he loves us.
Yep.
We will trust him. He does give us crowns, multiple crowns, to show how much he loves us and our identity in him, through him, in his kingdom. And um, we talked a lot, but it was all good and it's fine. But I want you to just share a little bit more. So God brought you through that, and you shared that, and now today we know that you're married to Jason. I don't know if that was clear, but Jason is who you're married to, and you have two beautiful children. But tell us a little bit about where you are with God in your life now that you've gone through that transition, now that you're married again, still having to live life and still life is still difficult just because we know Jesus, just because we have found more of our purpose, we still are struggling because this
Yeah.
life again is filled with evil, filled with darkness and our own choices as well. So where are you at today with your walk with God?
Well,
What?
I think the one example that just came to mind immediately was finding some new supernatural peace through him.
Mm,
Through my 7 years of craziness walk, I had an abortion
mm,
with a guy that clearly I thought loved me, like we all say, but it's more of like I deep down I knew I could not be with him. And I did not believe in abortion, but in that moment of panic, you go towards um, fear.
mhm.
And I went there. I think God tried several times to talk to me through that process of don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Here's why. There was a, not a clinic, what do you call it? People with signs standing outside
Mm,
the clinic when I went, like shame, guilt. Um, I felt that, but at the same time, I was surrounded with love. Like, don't do this. This baby is not the baby's fault. This was your choice. But it was more, I still felt fear. I was covered. If my parents knew, oh my gosh, I was so young and what would
mhm,
happen? Um, I ended up having the abortion. And for a long time after that, I really, really blamed. I went to a hole of I can't believe this happened to me. I can't believe it. So move now. Fast forward to present, not present, but when I was married, I'm still married, but when I got first married, and we're trying to conceive, I had miscarriage after miscarriage, and of course this seed of that I rooted of fear and anxiousness from that moment of my life came back up because you had an abortion, you don't deserve kids.
mm,
each of them will die. And that was what I held onto. And I went through a program um, called Throne of Grace, and they helped me realize that God, the baby's in God's arms, like the baby's free. Um, I'm trying to remember the moment. Oh, that's what it was. I decided to go to Uganda. It was a mission trip. Um, that was kind of a last minute addition for me, but I decided to say yes because I needed to get out of this gunk fate, like where I was, and I needed to go do something for God. I needed to be hands and feet, and I needed to get out of that. And I did. I saw God. I felt God. I saw the enemy, and I knew how to keep the enemy away. I learned to really pray through that moment in my life, like just deep, deep praying. And then I realized they are not my kids. They never were my kids. They are his first. They are always his first. I'm just the manager. I'm just the manager. And it is my duty to do the best I can in the time I have to take care of them in the best way I can. Now I fail many times and I ask God for forgiveness, but
Yeah, like the rest of us, yes.
but there was a moment of if I get pregnant again, I was no longer scared. I was no longer angry. I was no longer bound. I felt freedom that if I get pregnant again and I lose this baby, it's okay. There are other ways for me to have kids. This wasn't just a tie down, it was an expectation. And I felt this lift and I told Jason, I go, babe, it is what it is. Like, God is so good. And he couldn't believe me. He's like, what happened? What changed in you? I'm like, Holy Spirit. He spoke, he changed, and
Uh-huh.
so that was a huge moment for me of feeling God's love, his supernatural peace in my life, of one incident that I have now had many incidents of God's revelation in me, but like just that one moment of him showing me that, babe, why are you stressing about again? Let me take care of you. You are my princess. You are made from, the image of the true king here. You are worthy. I am cherished by him. I'm
His
loved.
blood covered everything, even the abortion. Every
Everything.
sin is covered. Boom. Soon as you accepted it. No more
Yes.
shame. No
Oh
more
my God. It was
shame.
complete freedom.
But
I have
you held on to it. Yes.
Yes, when I made that realization that it was me holding on to this darkness, but as soon as I was like, it's yours, God, supernatural peace. And it hasn't left me because I have seen how his goodness can redeem. He can make beauty from these ashes. And it's just the most freeing thing. And I know, and I have seen him how he has done that through many points in my life, in our marriage, and currently in our kids' lives. Um, Seeing their gifts, individual gifts, it has been the coolest thing because I'm like, oh, I get to manage that to a degree. God has already made design them, but I get to be part of that. I'm not the one that makes or breaks them. I'm the one that gets to shape and help them, shine them towards him so he can mold them
Uh-huh.
better than. So it has been really cool. I'm still learning to be a good parent. I ask my kids for forgiveness all the time. But it is beautiful to know that I that there's partnership in that with God. That
Mhm.
he hasn't left me alone, that he knows I'm gonna fail just like everything else, but he's already all over them. He's already covered them with his blood. He's already before them in each and every of their situations that they're going to face. But their gifting at the present that I can see is beautiful, and he lets me see it. It's so cool, so cool. He is so.
Awesome. Oh,
Yeah,
thank you for sharing more of that. And what an encouragement, a reminder, again, of what it is to walk with him, because it's not a religion. It's not, it is a relationship, but he is holy. And
yeah,
yes, he does have some very real rules and guidelines. He's holy. But again, it's all about our yes and our surrender. He didn't make us perfect. He doesn't expect us to be perfect. He knows we're going to fail. He knows we're going to hear him and still choose our own way sometimes. He knows, and that's why his word says his mercies are new every morning.
Yep.
His love his love is more than we could ever comprehend. And the longer we walk with him, I find the more in awe I am of his love, the more in awe I am of his mercy. The things I've been seeing in working with people and walking alongside people is extravagant mercy.
Yep.
I thought I knew what mercy was, and now I still can't wrap my head around his mercy and realizing that every part of him, every facet of him is that deep. His love, his mercy, his justice, his righteousness, his gentleness is so deep we can't comprehend it. That's why we'll never get to the end of him, that he keeps inviting us to walk with him for us, for others, and he reveals more and more of his faithfulness and his love. And
Yeah,
it is such a joy
it is.
to
It,
have him. It is life. It is life to have him leading in your life, to surrender things to him, not to be a slave to be controlled and manipulated, but
yeah.
a slave or a servant to one who loves me more than anyone ever could, more than my husband, more than a friend, more than my children, the faithfulness, the perfection of him, and knowing that it's real.
Absolutely.
And I'm so thankful for you sharing your story. And I believe it will empower and encourage many, whether they've encountered false religion, bad theology, or nothing. God uses all things for
Yes, he
his
does.
plans. He is always at work to take what the enemy has meant to destroy us and turn it upside down and use it and make something beautiful.
Mhm.
How that is even possible, of the horrific things that I see and know, blows my mind every day. But that is how awesome our God is. And I'm so thrilled that you were willing to share parts of your story, parts of your journey with him, as we continue to press in and walk with him and invite him into our life, because he is not forceful still. He is still like, you ask me or I don't. He never,
Yeah,
he does make things apparent sometimes,
absolutely.
repetitive, but again, in gentleness, he's so
Yeah.
good.
He is so good. Oh, so, so good. Thank you, Chris.
Any lasting comments you want to throw out or share before we end, or
I think the only thing that came to mind as I was hearing you speak was I was taught to think in brownie points.
mm,
That the works that I do on this earth, growing up in Mormon, that the works that I do in this world will give me more treasures, more things when I die and go back to my
mm,
planet, my world is heaven.
mm,
And I always thought that was kind of funny when I was younger. I'm like, how is it that we are the belief of Mormonism is very unique, but how is it that what I do here, that's why community, all those different works meant something, but the God that we believe in today, the one that I believe in today, there's no measure. There's no scale. There is just open arms waiting to embrace. And that's the image that he always gives me when I fall short of things. So I'm
mm.
grateful for that. I'm grateful. And I hope that,
Amen.
yeah, we can.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. And if you liked hearing what you heard today, please subscribe to Life Empowered, share it with others, share this story to encourage others. Take a listen. There's all kinds of life journeys that we share on Life Empowered to help you be encouraged and live the life that God created for you.
Yes.